Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me once again, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on?
What is going on is we're recording late because I just finished, like 5 minutes ago, Jedi Survivor, so that we could talk about it for this week's episode. You finished it, obviously, I think right before last week's episode,
Yep.
but we did our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Spoilercast last week. So that's pretty much going to be the main topic of the show today. However, we also have both dipped into The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Cameron has put way more time into it than I have because I've been burning through Jedi Survivor the last few days. But yeah, that's going to be what we're going to be chatting about today. We'll start off with our preliminary Tears of the Kingdom thoughts. We'll do a Jedi Survivor spoiler-free section, and then we'll kind of dive into full spoiler chat for that. So that's what we have in store today. But before we dive into that, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast everywhere you can, all that fun stuff. So yeah, Cam, tell me first about how much time have you put into Tears of the Kingdom so far?
I've probably roughly put around 12 hours, I'd say, into it, 10 to 12.
Okay.
Got about like the first 2 to 3 that where you're on the first island, and then from there where you go from there on that. I've spent a great deal amount of time doing other things other than like quests or stories. It's one of those games that's easy to get sidetracked in.
Yeah, of course.
Wondering like, ooh, where does this lead? Ooh, where does this lead? Ooh, I have ways of doing things. And it gives you a lot of tools right at the start of the game to really like open up the world from Breath of the Wild in a way that was very much not the same. That makes it very different in the way that you just interact with it, as well as the other things that the kind of game has like kind of like changed about the landscape. It's still the same basic map, but at the same time, it is vast and different in many, many different ways.
Yeah, I so far really all I've put into it was the opening few hours that I recorded for our Let's Play that went up on Saturday. And it's interesting you say that because I found myself thinking at least the opening tutorial section is like very much a beat for beat kind of like recreation of Breath of the Wild in terms of like, hey, you're gonna get a tutorial, so we're gonna do a shrine for each of your new abilities and that kind of stuff. And kind of let you off the hook for there. Even like moments of like, finding a construct that's like chopping down a tree, to teach you, hey, yeah, you can chop down a tree and use that log as a bridge kind of thing. I was like, I remember that, especially because it was very fresh in my mind on the Great Plateau as well. And you also have kind of like a guide helping you through that opening section as well. I pretty much once I got out of there and got back down to the rest of Hyrule, that's pretty much where I called it. So I have not been able to go back yet. But I will say, like, off the jump, I'm enjoying this better than Breath of the Wild. Notoriously, I'm like, Breath of the Wild was a fine game.
Mm-hmm.
It does still have some of the things I'm going to not like weapon durability, of course, and some of the like that nature of the game. But at the same time, it did make some like already I can see some like quality of life improvements, like the fact that I can grab one ingredient and select it and say I want to use this because it's attached to this recipe. Great, I can make all of those like warm resistance thing or cold resistance spicy pepper meals that I need to make rather than as opposed to having to like, all right, grab a spicy pepper and a mushroom or grab a spicy pepper and an apple or something. So I appreciate that, like little things like that. Same with like the ability to easily swap out weapons if if you've got a full arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
You open a chest and it's like, all right, you're full. Do you want to just drop one of the things you already have, as opposed to, all right, you've opened the chest, you're full. All right, let me go into my menu in the inventory, drop something, and then reopen the chest. Little things like that. It's there's still leaps and bounds of things that I wish it were also doing, but from my cursory little bit there. I'm enjoying it so far. And I will say, like, I did also appreciate the tutorial in this one feels, a little bit more expanded because it's giving you so much more freedom with like
Yes.
the ultra hand ability and
Yeah.
the fuse ability. It's like, okay, yeah, you can like from the jump, you can go ahead and go nuts making stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also introducing like there's a tutorial section on like the powering up your constructs and stuff like that. So I'm appreciating it. I'm enjoying what I had. Also, I will say like the real opening pre the tutorial stuff did feel more story driven than the last game. So hopefully that continues and there's
Mm-hmm.
a narrative thrust to the game as well. But yeah, like it very much feels like Breath of the Wild, but with a whole new arsenal of weird and wacky tools. Obviously, most of my like exposure to the wild things that you can do in the game so far are just from what I'm seeing other people do on Twitter, almost to the point where I'm like, all right, like you guys got no chill on opening weekend of this game, and you're just spoiling all these crazy things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's unfortunately led to the Minecraft effect, which is everybody sharing everything they create and do.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, like I do think that's a little bit of spoilers, but at the same time, it also has made me realize just like how small scale I had been thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I saw somebody literally like fuse a cage from a big enemy and like use that, and then I've seen other TikToks. TikTok is insane right now of people showing like different tricks and things you can do. Somebody literally minimized a mining cart on the beginner island with the beginning area rather. With they fused it to their shield, and then they did the shield surf mechanic, and basically turned the game into Tony Hawk Pro Skater or like Skate.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just going nuts, like doing leaps and jumps and stuff with it, like that you can do with the shield. But it is just the coolest thing. All the little things that you can do with it are really insane. But I think the best thing that I've seen so far is people punishing the Koroks for the Korok seeds in the last game.
I don't like that. I don't like the, especially since like I'm largely seeing like, oh, crucifixes, like crucifying Koroks. I'm like, there's a whole lot of problematic stuff with that.
there is a whole lot of problematic things attached to it.
I mean, on that, I will say, like, I appreciated the one little Korok guy I ran into on the Sky Island was like, hey, help me get to my friend, and I helped him get to his friend, and I love that I got 2 Korok seeds from that instead of just be like, so I love that there's like variety in like your rewards this time around, but I'm also immediately like, man, I miss Hetsu. I want I want my gear. I want like especially so our most recent like replay Breath of the Wild was like me defeating Ganon. Great. After that, I went and did like every shrine in the game. I did the Champions Ballad DLC. I didn't do the Master Sword like quest stuff to bump it up, but like I got the motorcycle and immediately I'm like, oh, and there goes all that right in the opening scene. And I don't have any of it anymore. But yeah, it's have you found any fun things to attach to your arrows?
Yes. Oh, tons of stuff.
Yeah.
All of the monster parts, instead of just being like, why am I carrying all these dumb monster parts? I have like a like infinity number of these monster parts. You can fuse them to your arrows to make like basically make your specialty arrows. It's done away with the oh yeah, I want to make a fire arrow, well I have to do this or that, or like any of that stuff is out the window now. It is all about fusing things to your arrows. One of my favorite things to do is to take the cane bat's eyes, attach it to your arrow, and it becomes a homing arrow.
Yeah,
it homes in on the enemy that you're targeting, which makes some of those harder to hit enemies with your bow and arrow a lot easier to hit. That's fantastic. There's just a lot of like really fun stuff. I love taking one of my favorite things is the skeleton bokoblins. Taking their skeleton arms and like fusing them together to make one long one.
Yeah.
Or taking a really long one and attaching a weapon to it. So you basically have like an extra arm flinging out and attacking with this like I have a great sword in one of mine, or a claymore, and fused the claymore to the arm. And so it was like I was like still using the claymore, but I was using it in the bokoblin arm. and it was just like, and so it was a one-handed all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. It's great.
Getting that 15-foot reach.
100%, yeah. And like, I'll be honest, the enemies in this game are no joke. Like from the get-go, you have to start thinking creatively because they will bully you.
Mm-hmm.
There are some enemies that used to be kept more in reserve for later on or in your adventure in Breath of the Wild are right up there at the forefront. There's no like there's a lot of creatures that you think, oh wow, that was kind of like a later in the game thing that I had to do if I wanted to like open up an area or something. It's like, nah, those guys are smack dab in the middle. Like they are not playing around in this. They're like, cool, you guys thought it was like you guys had a really fun time in Breath of the Wild, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You thought it was a great time with all our enemies, huh? Well, guess what? Here's the big bad enemies all the way at the beginning of the game.
Mm.
One of the first groups I ever ran into was like a giant bokoblin guy, and it was just like, what? Why is this guy just here?
Yeah, I on my way to like the first little town after the island, like I just raced through the fields, but I was seeing like little groups of enemies all over the place, and I was like, I don't want to fight that Hinox. I want to go ahead and leave that alone right now.
That Hinox is just like sitting there chilling, and
Yeah.
you're like, no, I'm good, thank you. Like, and it's like it doesn't treat it like it's a boss battle either anymore. It's like they're just straight up like they're like, hey, we noticed you guys said it was easy, so we've decided to make it extreme. Like, here's the challenge. But the thing is, you can do so many cheesy things to just own the crap out of them.
Of course, yeah.
So with the new abilities, and so it's like I get it. I get that you also want like more variety at the beginning of the game, rather than keeping those things towards the middle or end of the game after you like expand out of the initial area, to just give more life to it. Also, there's like a greater variety of enemies now, different brand new types of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really cool. I've been super digging it.
What's your favorite thing you've created so far?
So I turned a floating block into a portable airship with like rocket boosters on it, as well as turbines. And I built walls around it to stop me from getting hit by enemies. And I basically completed like this entire upper sky area just with my own single little battery. And whenever I ran out, I would just like wait for it to recharge and then go again. And then I'd get close to it, and then I'd use my ability to move, the Ultra Hand ability. I would move it, flip the things that the people are on upside down, and watch them fall to their death from my base, from my Sky Fortress.
All right.
And so that's my favorite thing that I've built so far. That's as far as like construct-wise. My favorite weapons that I've built so far have definitely been just putting rocks at the end of decayed like big weapons. Like I have a it's technically a quote unquote club that I use like a spear, and I just poke things with it from far away. I don't like getting hit because when I get hit, sometimes I die very quickly.
Yeah, only working with like 3 or 4 hearts to start with, so
it's a rough get go, and the game is not also. There's a lot more hazards of dying in this one.
Yeah.
I have gotten the game over probably as far into the game that as I am now. I've gotten the game over screen more times than I did my entire time through Breath of the Wild. It is not a like they're like this is like quintessentially the like the mess around and find out game for sure. Like right from the get go.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously haven't had a chance to really play around a ton, but I did like. We talked about this. As I was trying to like get to the 3rd shrine, I couldn't figure out like what the game was like. Hey, yeah, here's how to get up there, kind of thing. So I ended up going past it and then like exploring other parts of the island. And it led me to like a frozen lake kind of thing that I needed to cross. And so I was like, all right, well, there's a few trees here. I'm gonna chop these trees down. And I got annoyed because like. It was the first time the logs didn't just like nicely line up into like, all right, here's like a 3 log thing. Cause those were like the very first things I built. All right, 3 logs next to each other, throw a fan on and boom, I'm pushing across. So, I tried throwing the 3 logs in, and then the fan, and the thing just like flipped over and capsized immediately. I'm like, okay. I guess I got to figure out how to account for that. So like my solution ended up being like, all right, I'm I'm going to, nope, I don't like how that connected, so I'm going to shake the stick and like reconnect them at a better angle, and then I'm just going to throw on more logs, so it's like a wider thing, has a wider base, and like, yeah, the fan's still not not making a great angle of the thing, but I can jump on it now and hit the thing and slowly but surely get across the water. So
Yeah.
it is like dumb little things like that. I talked about like the first time I built like a little flying thing to get, you know, out of an area in that tutorial section. I was like, well, I'm gonna build this like a plane. I'm gonna have an engine on like both
Yep.
sides of the thing, as opposed to, I think we were talking to your brother-in-law who'd only put it on one, and so he was not getting the thrust and lift that he thought he needed. And then it burned through the power quicker, but it also I could just kind of like move back and forth to like let it glide.
Yes.
And then I just misjudged when I was going to jump off into the water, and boom, jumped right off onto the Temple of Time and died. So I had to go rebuild it all over again.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't even build anything on top of that. I just sailed that thing down.
Yeah, there you go.
Because you can.
Mhm.
It's great. I realized.
I moved it there at first, and I saw it just start sliding down his little like rails, and I was like, no, come back. I'm not done. I'm not done with you yet. So I kept having to like ultra hand grab it back.
Something that you can do. Oh, well, you didn't get it up until that point, probably.
Yeah, I didn't have the recall ability.
The recall, recall, reversal, whatever you like, whatever it's actually called.
I believe it's recall.
I think. Okay, cool. Recall is awesome. Because it's like if you, I need to get this thing up someplace, but it needs to also move when I'm doing it. I need to be on it. You can move something up into the air with Ultra Hand, let it go back down.
Yep.
Use recall on it, and then recall will literally take you back up on it, and then you can activate it and then start flying.
Yep.
Yeah, this game is going to be nuts for a very long time. It's very much, I realized you can either work harder or work smarter. That was the whole thing about Breath of the Wild, is you had to work hard to get through some areas traversal wise. This time it's like you can work hard or you can work smart. I was trying to climb up these whole things, then I remembered, I'm like, wait a minute, it's off at just enough of 1 second, and I moved a board on the ledge of it, and then I used my
the ascend
ability to go through that and up there, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I was probably not supposed to be able to do this, but I'm up here now.
Yeah.
And also the sky launchers. The sky launchers are just sick as hell.
I've not experienced a sky launcher yet.
It's where you told me you left off. It's right after that.
Yeah.
After you get the glider.
Yeah.
You go one of the first things you do is you pop up into the air.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's your towers this time around. It's unlocking them, and they're awesome. I love them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I need to find this area, but I'm like, I don't want to run around and do that. So I just go to the tower, pop up into the air, and then I can just look around. That's what I did for finding this one guy that I was in the middle of doing. Just before we started recording, was doing that. It's awesome.
Yeah. One of the things I encountered in my replay was if you watch the videos, I just kind of mainline the game up through the first Divine Beast, and it kicked my ass a lot, and so I struggled a lot in that first Divine Beast fight. And so in between that and the next episode, I think I just did or I guess there was probably one other episode. It was basically I did a whole ton of shrines so that I could then go get the Master Sword, which you needed a whole bunch of hearts for. And that was that immediately just oh yeah, if I play the game and do all of the things that will make me powerful and stronger, I'm going to have a better time of this. So I'm probably going to take the lessons from that and also take my time with this. I remember with Breath of the Wild, I think one of the reasons I probably didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people was I was largely kind of racing through the game just to, beat it and be on to the next thing, as is often the case when when you're somebody who talks about and reviews games and stuff like that. And yeah, this time I'm there's no pressure. I'm not, even if I get spoiled on the story, I'm not expecting it to be a crazy great story or something, because that's not the focus of these entries in the Legend of Zelda series. So it's much more about like the story you make. So I'm gonna just try and like, all right, I'm going to enjoy my time, and if I see a shrine, I'm gonna go check out that shrine, and because I know I'm going to need it for health and stamina anyway. So yeah. Very cool. Any final thoughts before we move over to Jedi Survivor?
Yeah, sorry, somebody's just sent me something at DM. That's I thought it was important, and in a way it is, but in a way it's really not. No, my only thoughts are it's really cool. Really, like if you enjoyed Breath of the Wild, this game is definitely a catch up for you. I'm moving this over here now so I don't get distracted anymore.
Cool.
Yeah. Overall, really good game. Check it out if you like Breath of the Wild. It's definitely a must pick up.
Mm-hmm.
I anticipate you will have a much better time this time around, as I right from the get go I've had a much better time. And I am one of those people who are, it's like I really liked a lot of Breath of the Wild, but it certainly isn't my favorite. What it has for its vastness, I often felt it was somewhat empty.
Mm-hmm.
And this time around, I feel like this world is just chock full of things. Also, shout out to the little things that I've picked up from playing through Age of Calamity,
mm-hmm. The Muso.
Yeah, the Muso game, because a lot of the areas that are like named villages in there that you go to are the ruins that you end up at, that were kind of like the unnamed ruins that you would like kind of be like, man, I wonder what this was.
Oh, they were named in the.
Were they named? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't recall if they were named. I didn't think they were named or not.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Most of them are named at least.
Yeah. So now I know for sure they're named because I just ran through some of them. But no, it's awesome. I'm digging it a lot. I love that it's like, hey, what if right after everybody's recovering from the like post-apocalyptic like circumstances of the cataclysm of the calamity, if we just went ahead and just like said, hey, let's do this again.
Yeah, here's another calamity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You thought that was a calamity? Now this is a calamity.
Yeah. All right. Check out not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm sure we will have more thoughts as we go. I'm probably going to sit down as I like jump back into the game tomorrow. I have like all of my Breath of the Wild amiibo that I'm going to burn through and just like collect a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm probably going to do at least more videos for that.
I 100% this morning went over to your desk and like
grabbed them
and just I put them back. I put them back. Yeah. They're there.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh no, you have all like that giant stack of cards, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm holding up.
Yeah, no.
I thought you just grabbed. I just grabbed
the amiibos. I didn't even think about the cards.
That's physical amiibo.
I might just borrow those from you.
Yeah. So yeah, there will probably be more Tears of the Kingdom content on the site, and I'm sure we'll continue to check in on it as we go in the weeks, if not months ahead. So let's dive over to Jedi Survivor. Spoiler-free thoughts to start. Cam, what did you think of this one as someone who also just recently played through Jedi Fallen Order?
Yeah, my opinion of Jedi Fallen Order was like it's a pretty solid B game. I think that it had it had a hard time selling me on the game, but eventually it got there. Like I did enjoy my time with it. I did think it did a lot of really cool things, but I felt like it was held back by some stuff. That is completely out the window for Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor is a fantastic game. I loved my time with Jedi Survivor from the get-go. Whether it's just its time, its maturity, its story evolution, Cal's a much better, well-rounded character this time around. He feels a lot less like a rough draft of the character. I feel like sometimes he came across in Jedi Fallen Order. This time around, I felt like there was a lot more depth to him. The relationship that was kind of like building in Fallen Order feels fulfilled by the time you re-meet a lot of the characters from the first game. A lot of the characters, like where they came from in Fallen Order to where they are in Jedi Survivor feels full circle for a lot of them. Like it's like, okay, yeah, this would be the natural next step to it. There's understanding, but at the same time, difficulty with like some characters' choices at the beginning of the game, and like kind of Cal situation. I will say that there's still some rough spots, like it's like we'll get into it in the spoiler section, but like there's some stuff that's introduced, and it's just like, why did you even bother? That being said, that's all story element stuff. That being said, the gameplay wise, this game's fantastic. Adventure, traversal, everything that I could have asked for, this game delivers on. It's fantastic. I think that this is a definitely game of the year contender. I think that it's head and shoulders above its predecessor. It is what I was hoping to see from Jedi Survivor, from Fallen Order, was a game that had kind of stepped it up in what it had tried to do and maybe been somewhat successful with, and keeping the things that they really nailed. And I think that that carried over spectacularly. And I think that they absolutely nailed it on a lot of levels.
Nice. Yeah, so I, again, literally just finished it like half an hour ago. And it was interesting because obviously you were playing through Fallen Order and sending over like videos and like we would talk about the game as you were playing through it, and like every time you're like, oh, I'm at this point, I'm like, I don't remember that game at all. I don't remember the story. Like I had to go and like watch a like recap video to like refamiliarize myself with the story. Like I remembered some of the characters and stuff like that. Like I was a big fan of Marin from the first game, but even like it was like bare bones of what I remembered from the first game. Like I remembered enjoying it just fine, and I believe it did pretty well in my game of the year that year as well.
Was it your game of the year that year?
No. It was when did that come out? 2017.
So was that three?
It would have been Horizon, I think. Was
oh yeah, that's true. That came.
Or no. This was sorry. No, this was 20. It was 2019. It was because I played it right after that Nerdy Site launched.
Yeah.
So 2019, Fire Emblem Three Houses was my game of the year that year. But it was definitely in the top 10, and it was like it was a game I enjoyed and had a fun time with it, and then just didn't think about it a ton after that. So I appreciated like refamiliarizing myself coming into this one, and I do think much like I felt kind of the same last year with like Horizon. Like I didn't remember a lot of the story moments of Horizon Zero Dawn, but like I remember like key things, and then so when they came up in Horizon Forbidden West, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay. And I thought Horizon Forbidden West was like leaps and bounds above story wise, and I felt the same this time around as well. I think I liked a lot of the story stuff. I liked the relationships that you get with a lot of the characters in here, new and old companions, the like the difference in like planets and stuff. I started to go down and I was like, oh, I'll save that for spoiler talk. But the planets you visit and kind of explore, I think much more vast feeling than the previous game.
Yes.
But also I think the addition of fast travel makes it way more manageable.
100%.
So I had a fun time there. I've like 100%ed at least half of, I think, at least half the planets that you go to, and there's still some stuff I'm going to do kind of in the post game. But yeah, I think Cal is. The game is taking place like 5 years after Jedi Fallen Order, which puts it at like around Star Wars Rebels timeline of things and Obi-Wan Kenobi timeline of things. So that's where we're at in like the Galactic Empire. And I think there's interesting ideas that we see even from like the opening of the game around that. And then the game also completely surprised me with certain elements that it dives into that I wasn't anticipating. Again, we'll talk about that in spoiler stuff. But I remember like when I've finished a story beat, I like was like, oh, it's really cool that we're seeing this kind of element in the game. I started playing the game like in normal mode, and then I like went and saw like a trophy guide and was like, I thought I had missed. Like there's one missable trophy and I thought I'd missed it. So I went back and like restarted the game. And then from like the restart, I was like, I'm just going to try and like burn through and kind of enjoy my time with this. I'm getting plenty of Souls-like stuff with our Elden Ring stuff. I don't really need this to be as Soulsborne-y of an experience. So I like just kind of jumped in my full playthrough in story mode. And in story mode, like the combat obviously significantly easier, parries are like way easier to perform and all that stuff, and so it ends up just feeling more like a regular action game, like your
Mhm.
Uncharted's or Last of Us kind of stuff, but with more hack and slashy stuff, obviously, and so I like I it's exactly kind of what I was looking for in this. And there were definitely times where I was like, man, I would be super pissed if like I did some of these fights and they were more Soulsborne-y kind of stuff, because there's a lot of bullshit in there.
Yeah, there is
Um
100%. There's a lot of bullshit.
yeah. But I enjoyed it at my level, and yeah, had a fun time with it. Um yeah. I think I'm trying to think. I mean, good performances all around. And yeah, I think just a more interesting look at these characters, since they
Hmm.
have kind of moved on a little bit from the last adventure, and they've done their own things, and they all have their own missions and objectives, like Cal does, and yeah, it was a fun time revisiting the Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor universe from Respawn. Any final spoiler-free thoughts before we move into full spoiler territory there, Cam?
Uh, my last thing that I'll say is if you are about like you're like okay, I gotta turn it off because I don't want spoilers. Play this game. It's great. That's my last spoiler free thought.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, last spoiler free thought for me, there is a moment like halfway through the game where like you end up doing some really, really cool stuff. And I imagine, like, I've heard people talk about, like, oh, I did like the coolest thing in Jedi Survivor. And it was all, gameplay and stuff like that. And I got this point in the game and I was like, that was indeed some of the coolest stuff I've done. Um, and then I feel like the game never like reached that peak again for me. So there was like a weird little pacing thing, I think, on that. Especially like there's also pacing stuff that your mileage may vary because it's an open world game, and
Yes.
how much of the like offshoot side quests and 100%ing of the maps you're going to try and do, that ended up like every time I could have probably beaten the game 12 hours ago, but I spent like just I went to go do a thing, and then I squirrel and went and did another thing,
Yep.
and then I like an hour would go by and I was like, oh, that's right, I started this trying to go do this thing and I haven't even gone close to it yet. So I'm going to at some point I was finally like, we need to record a podcast, I just need to finish this game. So
Mhm.
so yeah, but yeah, Jedi Survivor, very fun time, especially if you're a Star Wars fan and enjoy action adventure games. All right. With that said, let's dive into full spoiler talk here, Cam. I will throw it to you first. Where do you want to take us on the spoiler conversation here?
The first thing I gotta say is I called Bode being a traitor first scene.
Wow. Okay.
First scene. Also, way to fridge like an entire crew of people.
Yeah, we talked about that at least. I did not see the Bode turn coming. I was definitely like, well, we just killed like who I thought was the big bad, and there's still game to go. So what do we do now? And so yeah, when it was revealed Bode was a spy, and then also like a former Jedi, I was like, oh, okay, there's our third act villain, I guess.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for me it was like the moment he showed up, I was like, I think this guy's gonna betray me. And then all of a sudden, oh, the Empire showed up faster than we expected. Oh, everybody's getting picked off one by one. And I'm like, okay, for sure, Bode's the traitor. And I just kept waiting for it, the other
Mm,
foot to fall. And but here's the thing. Here's where it got me. Is eventually after the observatory,
mhm,
I kind of was like, I guess he's not. Like I expected, like, oh, the Empire's there to pick that up or grab whatever's there at the observatory. So
mhm.
obvious, and I'm expecting the betrayal to happen, and it just doesn't. And I was like, okay, all right. And I'm like, yeah, Bode's got a daughter, okay, and we gotta like figure out what's she's staying with some people, okay. Um, he's like, hey, like we should take this for us, and it's like we are taking it for us, man. Like we're good. And he goes, yeah, okay. And I was like, oh, don't tell me this is what gets us.
Yeah,
And
like in that moment, I was definitely like, okay, we're gonna get some like weird tension and conflict
that's what I
here.
thought. I thought
Whereas
there
like
might be,
he
yeah.
doesn't want to help the hidden path. Okay,
I
like
thought that might
yeah,
be,
it was
yeah.
like oh, I guess okay, yeah, he does want this to help like his girl like first and foremost. But then like when the turn happens, I'm like, God, is there even a daughter? Or was like was like because like right before that he's like I gotta go, I'm gonna go record like a bedtime story for Kata. And I was like in that moment I'm like, oh, he's about to die.
That's what I thought too. I was like, because
and we're
everything
gonna
up to
get
that point has been death flags.
yeah,
Death flags got planted for that last quarter of. I was like, oh, he's not going to betray me. He's going to be killed.
yeah.
It might be my motivation.
Exactly. It was like, oh, he's gonna die, and we're gonna get like a Robert Downey Jr. "I Love You 3000" kind of
Yeah.
little sequence of we're gonna hear or we're going to play that recording,
And that's
for
going to
her.
convince Cal not to give up on the fight. That's what I
Yeah.
thought was going to happen.
Yeah,
Totally.
Nope.
When he pulls out the lightsaber, and first off, I didn't realize that it was
Dagan's.
Dagon's. I didn't realize it was Dagon's lightsaber.
I didn't either until until really you just said it. Like I recognized it was Dagon's lightsaber when Cal holds it at the end, but I was like, why is he holding Dagon's lightsaber? And so it's only now just dawning on me that it was because Bode had picked it up.
When Bode first uses it, I didn't pick it up, but it's not until we're on Tanalorr that when he pulls it out, I go, oh, I thought he just had been hiding a lightsaber on him this entire time because people just ignore Cal, that Cal has it on him all the time too.
Yeah.
I just anticipated that being the case, and then I picked up, oh, he doubles back for it.
Yeah, he says something like, I'm gonna stick around here and check out some things kind of thing. It's like, oh, yep, that's when he was
That's when he picked it up. And I'm like, okay, and that makes total sense. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
also you're like the kicker. The kicker was the Force and the lightsaber. And when that happened, I said, excuse me, sir, what?
I didn't think it was a betrayal at first. I thought somehow like Dagon had like possessed his body or something like that, and it was going to be some weird like Sith, dark.
That's not a. Here's the thing. That's a total
thing.
Sith thing to happen. That does happen.
Yeah.
That literally is the plot of a Jedi Academy book from like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
100%. That is a.
But yeah, no, it was just Bode's been working for the ISB and
yeah, way to pull in the ISB for this. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And like the rivalry between the Inquisitorius and the ISB.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it was like in that same vein. I like while we're dealing with like the devastation of that and Cal goes down. I loved that we then got to play through a little bit as Seer, and then Seer gets to go out like a badass against Darth Vader. Like,
oh my gosh.
I didn't even think about like Darth Vader popping up in this one, I guess. Well, I did only because I'd like looked at the cast list of the game and had seen, oh, somebody's playing Darth Vader. Yeah, okay, it makes sense that he'll pop up again. But I thought it was going to be much like the last game of like, oh, he's going to pop up like right at the end.
I was expecting a pop up of Darth Vader at the end as well.
Yeah.
When he does show up though, it makes sense that he comes for Seer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It makes sense. One, her like, oh, I thought you drowned at the bottom, and he goes and he points out the futility of what she did.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly how to grab onto her emotions. Their fight is it's probably the fight I did the most out of all the fights. Because Darth Vader's no pushover.
Yeah, yeah.
And he is tough. He is a tough cookie to beat. And Seer didn't have as many health things as Cal does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I think she only had like 4 or
She
something. And I was run. Oh,
she only has 3 recharges.
Okay, she had 4 in mine, but that might also be because I had the perk for an extra stim.
Oh, maybe.
Attached. Yeah, or it might just be that in the story mode she has 4. But yeah, it was like 4 compared to like the 11 or 12 I was rocking.
Oh, you know what? I think it
Cal
might just be
point.
4 overall. Never mind. I might be wrong.
But yeah, it was like Vader comes in. I'm like, oh, well, this isn't going to end well for Seer. So yeah, I get like I was kind of expecting, they're probably going to kill somebody off, and sure enough, they're
dude, they kill Cordova and Seer.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, shout out to Cordova popping up literally out of nowhere, and blowing everybody's mind. Like, oh my gosh, you're alive!
Yeah, like BD1 just like getting really excited. Yeah, everybody being like, oh yeah, you're I'm so glad we found you. Did
Yeah,
you find the Zepho? No, that was a dead end. It's like, all right, well, glad we did all that in the last game. Cool.
I'm glad you kept this outdated holocron that caused us so much trouble.
Yeah.
No, his whole thing, like, you're a weird ass treasure hunt, dude.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Seer fight, it was like, all right, well, this, like, I don't imagine they're going to, like, obviously, we're not going to kill Vader here. So either Vader is going to kill Seer, or Vader is going to get, like, you know, incapacitated temporarily, and Seer is going to flee. And there was a moment in the fight when, like, she brings down, like, all of
That's what I thought it was going to do, yeah.
like the books onto him. I was like, man, Vader is not having he probably got to be pretty pissed that he's not getting the wins this in this time, because, you know, this is again right around Obi-Wan, so
yeah,
you know, he probably just lost that duel
either
against Obi-Wan Kenobi,
either
or
he's just lost it, or he's about to go do it. Yeah. Also, shout out to, like, Vader just, like, yanking the data tomes off the wall and throwing them at her, and it's like, you've seen over the game how she's been painstakingly trying to rebuild this thing, and it just crumbles down around her. And when he kills her, I was like, whoa, okay, well then what's going to happen next? And for the reveal to be, it's actually Cal having like, reliving her death through the Force with his Force touch.
Oh, I didn't even I did not pick up that.
She, right before it transitions back to the moment with Cal in the ruins of the library, it fades the way that his visions do.
Yeah,
into it. And when that happened, I was like, first off, it's brilliant that he's reliving the final moments of her that way, and, like, we're playing through it that way. The way that they, like, connected it also broke my freaking heart, because it's just because he's holding her, and it's like,
so got it. So yeah, I didn't pick up on that at all. So you're saying that, like, the moment we the player start playing as Seer, it's Cal reliving, much like we saw him do with, like, the High Republic stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick up on that at all. I thought it was like, oh, okay, like, because we just saw Cal, you know, go down, like, pass out kind of thing.
Well, it brings it up. It asks you respawn, and then it's a question. It's so good. It's done so well. The game design on this, like, from that part where you're chasing Bode on the speeder, because I was like, oh man, there's a speeder here. I wonder if we get access to the speeder later.
I saw the speeder earlier on. I was like, that's a T. If they don't pay that off, that's just, like,
mean.
It's dick. Mean. That's just a dick move design wise. So, like, yeah, as soon as Bode's running away, I'm like, oh, we're heading over to the speeder. So we're going to do a speeder chase.
And funny enough, I was like, I'm like, please be speeder, please be speeder chase, please be speeder chase. Immediately hop down on it, gun it, and I'm like, yes, this is what I want.
Yeah, but yeah, I just thought he was arriving just in the nick of time as she, like, died.
No, because all the fires had gone out by that point. He's literally in, like, the ashes of it, and it's so, because it's not even like, oh, he just barely missed Vader, oh, he could have saved it. It's like, no, he was far away and knocked out, and nowhere near her when she needed him, and God, like,
yeah, no,
it's brutal. That entire final scene is brutal. Him finding her, or him having her in his arms, and he's crying, and it's just, and I'm like, every single master he's ever had has died, and and it's just like that survivor's guilt, that compounding of that fear of, like, am I going to lose everyone I love, and just who's to blame? Because, like, Bode doesn't have to kill Cordova.
Yeah. No.
Except, he does. He has the order to kill Cordova, but I mean, he didn't have to do the betrayal. He didn't, like, they could have worked it out, but Bode's core, like, failure is that he doesn't trust people.
I mean, yeah, like, Bode killing Cordova, I was like, well, there's no coming back for that. Like, even as, like, Cal and Marin are having the conversation at the end of, like, we got to give him a chance to walk away. I'm like, give him the chance. He's not going to take it.
Nope.
Like it would be an unsatisfying ending to the game
narratively,
from the writers at Respawn if, like, he doesn't die somehow. You know, it could have been like, oh, he pulls a thing and kills himself or whatever. But no, it's like But and because there was that moment also, I like mentioned, and you did the same thing in that final fight with Bode, where like he's pummeling you, and the screen goes black. It's a God of War 3 ending kind of thing, and like embrace the dark side or whatever. And
Embrace
I'm
the
like,
dark side.
I don't want to do that. Like I had a nice conversation with Marin that I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to be a good boy, and so I didn't do it. And
I thought
then I died.
you were gonna have a split endings at that point. I was
Exactly,
excited.
yeah.
I was like, well, I got to go with the light side first, see what happens. And it's
Yeah.
like there is none.
Yeah.
Like this is not a story about light and darkness. This is not a story about. I'm like,
Yep.
narratively it makes sense, yeah, because the whole point of it afterwards is Cal lets go of the dark side after he's grasped it and realizes how close it is, and it really brings his judgment of Seer in the last game full circle. And the like, it's heartbreaking because like Seer's not there. Seer's not there for him to like apologize to her because he straight up like gave her shit about it in the last game, and it was something. And he's like, I'm glad that you're not fighting that fight anymore. Like at the beginning when he meets her again. And you found your peace and all of that. And she warns him. She goes, "Not like it's still
everyone. You know, everyone faces off against the dark side. Yeah.
Yep. It comes in its own time." And he like Cal's like, "Oh yeah, okay." And it's like it isn't until it's there, and he realizes the pull of it is not like it's so dangerous. The pull of it is that it feels so good. It feels like you feel with more power. You have more security. You have more foundation. Like it makes total sense that Cal is on this part of his journey.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, he has someone he loves that he wants to protect now. Yay for Cal and Marin. Woo!
Yeah, by the way, thank you for making Cal and Marin official.
Yep.
That was like telegraphed a million miles away. I'm glad they didn't culminate at the end of the first game, because I'll be honest with you, you can't go from like I pointed it out when I did my Let's Play series of this. By the way, yeah, the Let's Play series I go into a little bit about.
Yeah, your Jedi Fallen Order stuff will still continue to come out for the next couple months.
Episode 11 is going live on, was it Tuesday or Thursday? My episode's coming out.
Wednesday.
Oh, that's right, Wednesday. Yeah, so this Wednesday will be episode 11, so there'll be
out of 20 though, right?
20,
so yeah, 2.5 months still to go.
Yeah, no, I just don't want people to think, is this going to be like your Dying Light 2 Let's Play, where it literally was like 35 episodes? Yeah, there's a level of like when she kisses him. Oh my gosh! Shout out to the line. Was that for luck? And she goes, no,
it was for
and I was just like, yes, let's go. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. They're like but also like it's just that moment of Bode being like, Bode is given the option, but Bode can't not be in control. He like, you can see the trauma in Bode's character in his past that's led him to this point where he can't trust you, even though you're the closest thing he has to a best friend.
I mean, I loved that line of like, this is my best friend. We had a fight, but we're gonna work through it. I'm like he legitimately believes that is not like him putting on a guise or anything for Kata.
No, he thinks we can make this right.
Yeah,
and it's like, Seer's dead because of you.
Yeah.
What do you think you've done something awful. You have to own up to it on some level, and he just doesn't. He won't.
But yeah, and he gives the the monologue of like, here's how my wife died, but like I survived the purge too and all that, and when my daughter was born, I saw like the galaxy in her eyes. I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful sentiment. And yeah, I understand like parents will do anything, but also you can murder.
You're a monster. I'm a father. Like, such good lines.
Yeah.
This game is full of them. Like, Bode is just one of my favorite characters coming out of this game. I love his there's just such an angle about, he was meant to be a spy, but he sees so much of himself in Cal and being a survivor. Marin points that out, and also like points out like, if we kill him outright, like, we're just putting his daughter through what we went through.
Yeah. And
like, can you justify that? Because I can't.
Yeah.
And that's when, and it's interesting because at first Cal's like, what are we supposed to do, Marin? And Marin's like, well, we have to kill him. He has to die for what he's done. And then they discuss it. It's an actual real discussion.
Yeah.
Where both of them take both sides and they really go through it.
Yeah,
And
I
oh
love
man,
that. Yeah, I mean, it's very fresh in my mind, but I loved it very much. Of like they're going along, they're having a conversation as you're traversing the world, and like she makes a point, and she's like, "Say something, Cal," and I'm
yeah,
like, "I can't.
yeah.
I want to. I want to agree with you."
But Cal and
and then
Cal's yeah.
but like there's just enough of a beat, and then finally Cal responds, and the conversation continues and stuff. And I'm like, that was really fun. Like it's not environmental storytelling or whatever, but it is like storytelling through the gameplay instead of
Mhm.
like, oh, they're just having a cutscene where they're going to have this conversation.
If you're traversing through it, you feel like you're playing through this event, and that beat, that silence, and then she says that I was like, oh, was I supposed to do a button prompt? And it's like, no, Cal's soaking in, and he's really trying to make a measured decision here. And when they decide to give him that chance, I was like, I love they're giving him that chance. I love that basically every single decision that has to be made is going to be made by Bode, and it's whether or not. And they're like, you will stay safe from the Empire here, Bode. And but he can't. He can't trust that he isn't going to be given forgiveness, but at the same time, he is being given that sort of not a pardon, but he's given that clemency.
Mm-hmm.
And he's given that kind of like room to breathe. And instead of taking that and building on it and trying to make better for his family, he makes a decision that only he gets to make decisions for his family. Only he gets to stay, like, only he gets to be in control.
Yeah, and also the he doesn't trust that the Empire won't be able to find them.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and like with good reason. Like I kept thinking it's odd that that Cal thinks this is like a get out of jail free card, and like they'll be able to go in there and nobody will be able to follow them, because like he sees in the in the memories like the Nihil like finding the High Republic Jedi and like all warping in.
Oh, but they come through the beacon though. That's the thing.
Yeah, but I mean like it's
But the beacon's still there.
yeah, exactly. Like they found a way to get there. Other people still could too.
Yep, and and honestly, it boils also down to Bode doesn't think the Empire can lose.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Dagon being just like this is like when he's holding the stormtrooper helmet, he goes, "These are the forces that ended the Order of the Jedi."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, there's
so good.
There's like a Force echo that you can find elsewhere. That's like he's saying that like after killing a stormtrooper or whatever. Is like how did the Order lose to these?
And it's so good because it also speaks to like how far stormtroopers have come from clone troopers, and how like they're just regular people and they're conscripts for the most part at this point. It's
I mean, like the thing that Dagon's not at all counting on is like they had the numbers game. They're not like
also like
they're not really playing the numbers game against you, single guy on this planet that they don't really care about.
Yeah, Darth Vader's not showing up to take on you.
Yeah,
you wouldn't stand a chance, brother.
Yeah, if Cal can kick your ass, you're fine. Vader's not coming anywhere near you.
Yeah, Vader's gonna make you. Vader will make you weak because Vader. It like Seer's fight with him was so good because she basically took him on in all of his weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But he still came out on top. Like when she pulls down the library on him, and he kind of like busts out of it, and his cape's on fire, and he's wheezing. He's wheezing. It's so good. Mm-hmm. It's so good. But the thing is, the more damage you do to Vader, the angrier he gets, and the more powerful he gets.
Yeah, but I like that it wasn't like he doesn't win in like a rage kind of way that you might expect. It is like she goes in trying to get the killing blow, and he just gets the lightsaber in the right spot and dodges just out of the way.
Well, like he's really like he does the perfect like kind of like he's so precise about how he moves only as much as he needs to, and he knows in that moment he just needs to move a little bit. But he knows he's killed more, like from younglings to Padawans to Jedi Knights and Jedi Masters. He's killed them all. Like Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is a true Jedi hunter.
Yeah.
He knows what to do, and Seer is. I love Seer so much. Her design this time around was so awesome. I loved it. There's so many things I loved about it that I can just gush about that I loved about the characters and everything. But I need to give a special shout out to my 4-armed little man,
Greasy.
Greasy. Grease is so good in this game. He's so much of a like more fulfilled character this time around, from the get-go. I really like Grease at the end of Fallen Order, and then where Grease is throughout this entire game. I love him. I'm like they're just gonna kill him at some point. I just know it. They're gonna
I
kill
was
him.
definitely, yeah, he was on the like top of the, because that would be, you know, tugging the heartstrings kind of thing.
And I expected
Yeah.
Seer to survive, though. That's the thing. I expected Seer to survive. I expected the anchorites had to get out of Dodge at some point. I knew that because spoiler alert, Jeddah gets blown to shit.
I mean,
Rogue One,
like,
so.
but like they in Rogue One, it's specifically like the capital city. They don't full Death Star all of Jeddah. So like, and we're nowhere near that like city.
I guess that's a good
in
point.
this.
In my mind, I thought they
yeah.
did Death Star Jeddah, but it's just the cap. Oh, it wasn't finished yet. You're right.
It's yeah. Well, it's finished, but it's like the test launch. It's the test shot, basically. Like, you know, we don't need to extend the full power of this thing, but here's what it can do. Target Jeddah City, and yeah, it just blows up. And it does a good like distance because it gets out to Saw and stuff. That was like when Saw got name dropped at the beginning, and obviously he was a cameo in the last game. I kept waiting for him to like pop up here or something, and didn't.
Well, I thought it was interesting. First off, that Cal went back to Saw to work for him, because of the way Cal felt about Saw leaving Kashyyyk.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have like
but then he was alone though too. Like him and BD1 were alone at that point.
Yeah, so. I imagine it was like a when from the flashbacks when Seer and Grizz and Marin all decide to go their separate ways. I think he was probably like, well, I've been fighting the Empire with them for a while. Who else do I know that's fighting the Empire? I'm gonna go find Saw and you know, gets in with them.
Oh, by the way, let's just talk real quick. One of the most like the moments that I was having like flashbacks to like the worst parts of Fallen Order was the moment Cal picks up the photo of his crew, and it's like it's supposed to be this poignant, sad moment. I'm like, I don't know any of these people in the photo, Cal.
Oh, from the crew at the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning.
Yeah,
but it's just he looks at it, he goes. He's looking at it fondly, and it's like I guess like yeah, great. You guys are showing us Cal cared about his crew, but like we knew too. Like one of their names was just Bravo.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing because you mentioned that when we briefly talked about the game last time around, and yeah, those characters I don't think are in like the little interstitial story that I had mentioned in that episode. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're just in here to show that Cal's running with a different crew and establish that like, hey, part of this game is going to be getting the band back together. I mean, like, yeah, we talked about it. They very much get fridged for the sake of, you know, Cal and Bode being the survivors. And I think like, obviously it starts the recurring theme of, or it reintroduces the recurring theme of Cal as a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got enough with them that I was like, okay, they're fine. There's interesting. I'm not going to care about them 20 hours into this game, and I don't think I was supposed to. I will say one of the things I did like.
They bring up he brings up Gabs, like Bode brings up Gabs towards the end, and which also like dick move by Bode to be like. Yeah, that crew are like they were great people. It's like you find their dossiers on his desk or on his kitchen table. Yeah. Like it's such a like that moment to me was such a moment of like you came like I already knew you were bad. You came in to like disrupt us, but like you bring like and then it hit me. It's like he brings up the Gab like just like at the observatory, and I'm just like that's such a dick move of you to do. Mm-hmm. That's such a dick move. You didn't need to bring up my old crew. That you knew you intentionally took out, like you guys are you're dirtbag. You're a dirtbag Bode. You're a monster Bode. No, I'm a father.
Yeah. On the flip side, I loved the assorted cast of characters at Pyloon Saloon.
Pyloon Saloon was awesome. I loved the idea of building out that place. It was sick.
Yeah, that was what I started to go into in the spoiler free stuff. I was like, yeah, it's probably spoiler E. But yeah, I have like a full saloon now. I got a nice little rooftop garden that's full of stuff. I beat all the holotactics opponents, and yeah, I just liked the. I loved the idea of like, hey, there are some people around here. Go find them, and then they'll come back and they'll like hang out at the saloon with you, and you can go chat with them in between missions and stuff like that. I liked. I was curious about her because I was like, what's the deal with this like Cad Bane looking gunslinger kind of thing?
Dude, she's
who's
so
in the
sick.
corner, Kaji or whatever. I was like, she's there. I can talk to her, but I'm not getting like the introducing like I got with any of the other characters or whatever. So I was like, what's the deal? And then you get introduced to her later on in the game, and she's like, oh yeah, you can do the bounty hunting stuff. I've done I think half of the bounties
Nice.
at this point. I don't like. I think some of them don't get unlocked until like post game anyway. So I'm gonna go back and visit through some of those. But one of those was a ton of fun, I will say. I don't know how many of them you did. If you got into,
I did do a few of the bounties. Yeah, I enjoyed doing them.
There was one.
The bounty hunters were one of my favorite parts of Fallen Order. Is the way they'd show up.
Yeah. There was one that's like he's out there in the like Jeddah temple that you go into where you fight the big crazy spider thing or whatever, the squid monster mech. And so it's like he's there. He went to Jeddah. He brought an army with him, basically, and it's like, all right, because so far every time you fight like a bounty hunter, it's been like one or two, something like that. You can't get to the closest. You can't fast travel to the closest meditation point for that one. You basically have to cross that like the bridge that you have to like cross to get there, and there are like a couple bounty hunters on like every bit of the bridge that you have to like.
That's so cool.
You have to cut through like probably 15, 20 like of the bounty hunter enemies just to get to like the actual bounty hunter that's there.
That's
to kill
so
you.
cool though.
Which I was fine with it because I'm playing on I'm playing on story mode, but that was definitely one where I was like, this is like the 6th bounty. I would be super pissed if that was if I was playing on a higher difficulty and killed 6 of them or whatever, and then somebody guns me down and I have to start all the way back at the beginning of the bridge. But yeah, it's like it was fun kind of doing that. And in that vein, I'll also shout out that sequence on Jeddah where you are fighting the squid mech robot in that is the coolest thing in the game, I think.
It's definitely one of those great moments where it is the perfect combination of cutscene and gameplay and traversal mechanics all working together to tell this really awesome moment.
Yeah.
Because it was hella awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The entire setup and going through everything was just like so freaking cool.
Yeah, it was great. This game, obviously, you don't lose your powers from the last game or anything like that. So you've got the double jump, and you've got the double jump for the good first chunk of the game there, and then in that like right before that section, you pick up that like midair dash kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So now you're running around like the Doomslayer, and you can double jump and dash.
Yep.
And then right before that, you now get the ability from Marin to dash through the the green electron barriers or whatever, which will recharge your thing. So it's like they went full Doomslayer on this, Doom Eternal, awesome. and yeah, throwing that into that sequence, and then this like ability that Marin has to basically like, she can like give you her teleportation power kind of thing. So you're going through these like teleporting tunnels and stuff.
Finally, it breaks down. This is how her teleportation looks from her angle, her side of things.
Yeah, and
it does it such a great way of being like, it makes sense how her powers work now. Like before, it was like she's just randomly popping up places. Like no, her power works off of like there is a system and a balance to how her powers work. She creates the tunnel, the start point and the end point, and she goes through it. Mm-hmm. It works out great. I loved it. That entire sequence. Marin is easily one of my favorite Star Wars characters now. Her and Grease and Seer, like the 3 of those characters have been elevated for me so high. Mm-hmm. But Marin especially, like absolutely, like when I really started to like her was at the end of Fallen Order when she's teasing Grease. Because Grease is superstitious, superstitious.
Yeah, my sisters are all around.
Yeah, my sisters are all around.
She continues to do that in this game.
Yeah, And she continues to in this game, and it's just like she does it to Bode, and Bode's super weirded out by it. And Kree's just like, yeah, and you're waiting for him to be like you get used to it, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful like camaraderie between all these characters, and like they are a found family. They were together. But I think it also speaks to Cal making full circle on the understanding that like people don't always stay together.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always have your Padawan and master relationship throughout your life. Like there are moments when you're alone, and not everybody gets to have a BD1, so take advantage of that. It's really great. I will say, moving into kind of like where we're talking about gameplay aspects of the game, and also that bounty hunter, that's where you get the upgrades for the gun, or the customization for the guns. Tell me, and that leads me into the question: what were your main stances you went with?
I switched up pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the very low stakes of story mode. I guess I probably didn't do single blade really all that much. And if you look at like my skill tree, I think that's the one that like only has like 1 or 2 upgrades, whereas like everything else is fully upgraded. There was definitely some stuff where I was like switching to stances that maybe I wasn't using as much because I realized, oh, there's a trophy connected to this ability and got to use that or whatever. But there's a good stint. I think in part, because you were so high on it, I ended up probably using the blaster stance.
Such a good stance.
Way more. I didn't use it effectively though. Like I was probably most proficient with like the dual blade or something like that, because I was just doing like hack and slash kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the blaster is very much like, all right, like use the blaster. And so yeah, I just like I had it, and then I brought it. I probably like stopped using it for a while, but then I was like, oh, I gotta get this point blank trophy, where you like use the point blank ability 10 times or whatever.
That's a great ability.
Yeah, but I hadn't even unlocked it at that point or whatever. So yeah, there were definitely things where I since I was just kind of doing like hack and slash or whatever, I think ultimately probably gravitated towards the dual blade, the double bladed, or once you get at the cross guard.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, all right, I can take the slowness to get the more powerful hit because they're doing very little damage to me. Ha ha ha. And yeah, so I think those are probably the 3 that ultimately I was gravitating towards more. But yeah, like I had a good time with all of them really. But it wasn't until since I wasn't having to like really experiment and try a whole bunch of different things, like I definitely should have been using the lift and slam ability more.
Oh yeah,
once I unlocked them, and I wasn't, because those are great for crowd control.
Oh yeah, no, they're awesome.
And so yeah, when I was doing some late game cleanup stuff, I was like, oh, like yeah, these are amazing abilities to take out like all these droids or a whole bunch of just nothing stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just throw them up in the air, slam them back down.
It's also the easiest way to deal with creatures in the wild, like. Just like, oh, the thing's charging at me, grab it, slam it down.
Yeah. Though, I mean, for me, the strategy with those was often pull them to me and just slice them.
Some of them don't let you though, because they're like the bull running ones, the little beak guys. If you try to, not the beak guys.
I know what you're talking about. The little bird guys.
Not the bird guys. It's the like lizard neck dudes on like the little bodies that will, if you try to pull them, they'll launch and bite you.
Okay.
It was those guys. I realized as soon as I was like doing pull and like lift and slam and stuff,
mm-hmm.
those guys was just like 3 of them come at me. Great, group grab, lift, slam, done, dead. Yeah, no, all of that's awesome. For me, I was mostly utilizing blaster stance and crossguard stance once I unlocked it. I think crossguard stance is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I love the customization options that with the lightsaber when it comes to that.
Yeah, you get the emitter.
The emitters on the side. Shout out to them being like, hey, people really were like, hey, it was kind of cool, but we would like more. You guys want more lightsaber customization? here's the best lightsaber customization they've ever put in any game ever.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. I loved it from the get-go. It's like, oh yeah, put it back together. Okay, what color crystal do you want? You have the entire scope ready to go right now.
Mm-hmm.
Went straight to my cyan, was like ready to go with that. The Sunstrider cyan, stop like coloring right from the get-go. Love that. But I really, so first I was running with single and double-sided, then it was blaster and not double-sided, double-bladed.
Dual blade, yeah.
Dual bladed. So dual blade and single, then dropping single for dual, and then dropping double sided or dual blade for cross guard. And I first off, so much shout out to the detail that you get with like how Cal stores his lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
Because for cutscenes and everything, where like getting the emitters in the cutscenes is so cool. Because at no point in time is there any ever clipping with them. Like they thought all about, oh, what if they have emitters? Well, they should still have the emitters in the cutscene. Okay, well, we have to make sure none of the models clip then through the emitters, because then all of a sudden people were like losing limbs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's so brilliantly done. It's so cool. Gosh, and then I loved customizing my blaster. I turned that thing into a like the big iron on my hip. Big ass blaster. Basically had like no scope, no big accessories on it. I wanted like the pieces that had, if I did have the additional accessories, they just kind of like sculpted it a little bit better. I didn't want like any like big attachments to it. And then I found one that's like literally like this giant like laser photon blaster looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's the wildest thing. Why would anybody use it? And then I saw how cool some of the customizations that featured into it were. I was like, okay, cool. But I loved it. I forgot the customization options that I had selected, but I loved going from it. I had like a very like basic looking revolver looking blaster
Mm-hmm.
to then transitioning to like a like full on Glock, and then transitioning to what is essentially like a big ass like revolver / Desert Eagle looking thing, and it was the best. I had such a blast with that. I loved the kind of like, there's a lot less of the like cool kill moves, but the ones that are it doesn't happen, or maybe it's just like I wasn't playing good enough to execute them all the time, or have them like pop for me all the time. But I love the blaster one especially,
Mm-hmm.
because the blaster one, it is like, oh, I got your attention with my blade, cool, shoot you. Oh, you're down on your knees.
Shoot you again and spin the gun, put it back in my holster. Yeah,
the spinning of the gun every time was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I especially love the way, so little shout out to, like, I love that it's like you get a little Count Dooku Makashi action with the lightsaber dueling with it, because it's more of a rapier or more of like a fencing stance. And I'm like, okay, there's some straight up like Makashi going on. I'm digging it. And but I loved the additional so when your cutscene starts or your cutscene ends, even if your emitters are still out, Cal does go double back, gets the rest of the cross-guarded lightsaber thing, the bottom shaft. Because in the cutscenes, the bottom shaft isn't there, but immediately Cal like reattaches it. Like it's like in the middle of the cutscene, he detached it for whatever reason. Now he's reattaching it, and it's just cool. I loved having that longer, like a longer, more slimmer style. And just like some of the High Republic options that they give you that you unlock are awesome. And you know that I had my weapons strapped in Beskar steel. I did the Beskar steel customization option. I had this decked out sick ass lightsaber and blaster, like full on like Beskar steeled up. It was sick. It was so cool.
All right, you got way more into the custom. Like I played around with the colors a little bit, and like occasionally I would go in and swap out pieces and whatnot. But I was like, I'm not at the workbench enough to nearly enough to enjoy the detail of this.
Oh my gosh, the detail goes so deep. I did make a massive customization changes once I got Seer's lightsaber after she passed. I honored, because I was like, in the first game I had a lot of Jaro Tapal's like lightsaber pieces in mind, and then Seer's when you like get the back quarter of that game, when you rebuild your lightsaber. here I made some serious alterations to it, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna miss Seer as a character, but two, I forgot how great her lightsaber is. There's something so great and scholarly, but also adventure and survivor aspects to her lightsaber build that is just so cool. And integrating that into what I had been, which was essentially like a Beskar out, like sleek, high, like modern High Republic, but in that modern era of Star Wars aspect to it, and it's like it was just really really cool. And then I incorporated hers in there, and I'm like, this is just the sickest thing. Like the customization options on this entire thing are just the absolute sickest thing to do. And I 100% shot Bo multiple times with the blaster he gave me.
I when I got into the final fight, I was like, oh damn, I forgot to like equip that. Cause like when I faced him down earlier, I was like, oh, I'm gonna use the blaster stance to like take you out with the blaster you gave me. And then I did not have it for the final fight. I think I was dual blade and cross guard for the final duel.
But shout out to the cutscene for you use the blaster.
Still use it. Yep, you like the game knew I wanted that poetic justice.
Yeah,
even if I didn't remember it.
Gosh, and having Cal pull out in the cutscene that big fat iron from my hip on that was just so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play with like the design of them as much, but I did like all like my lightsaber and my my gun, very bright gaudy colors. Like just like 5 different colors with primary, secondary, tint, or four different colors, like tint and accent or whatever
what
it was.
Color lightsaber did you use?
I switched up a couple times throughout. I think I was rocking magenta for a while. Then I might have switched to cyan or yeah, I mean it was definitely one of the like more right, so it wasn't just like a blue or a green kind of thing. It like even that is like it was just such a like, oh, I'm just using the lightsaber all the time, so it didn't register. I did in large part because there were some trophies attached to them late in the game. I was switching up Cal's hairstyle. I was mostly rocking the bun and like short beard or something like that.
It's a great look. It's a solid look
good
for him. He looks really good in that. I really wish I had unlocked the mullet first. Because I like first off
so that's what I was gonna say. Like all of the dramatic seer shit that happens with her dying. He was rocking the mullet, and I was like, oh, I wish I hadn't changed to this.
For my seer stuff, I had switched the mullet I had switched the short beard to like the like handlebar mustache. And so he, like the entire time he's holding Seer and he's crying, it's like this fat handlebar mustache is just there.
Yeah.
I did change my hairstyle after that though to be like symbolic, like in mourning, cut the hair, make it shorter.
You with like the buzz cut or something?
Not the buzz cut, but I did a shorter hairstyle, and then I was like, I don't care for it. I went back to the man bun. The bun is great. It looked like Cal looks so good. The customization options for him. I loved his like John. I did at one point ran around in the survivalist gear that you can find.
Yeah.
Had that on and 100% had it like the headband, like the one with the bandana.
Yeah.
And I called him Cal Rambo.
There's a trophy if you wearing the headband and you attack like the stormtrooper dummy in the Jeddah base. It's Cobra Cal is the trophy.
Love that. However, I wish there had been like if you had like did something that's like from Rambo, like they drew first blood, not me. Kind of like some sort of name trophy like that. Of course, not a company with Stallone's voice, but like if they'd done something that's like John Rambo out there when you're out in the wild. So at one point I was running around basically just being like I was quoting Rambo while I was killing stormtroopers and stuff.
There you go. Yeah,
it was great.
I like there's a couple trophies that are like specific to like the hairstyle. The other one is like the reason I had the mullet was it's like Roadhouse. Go kick somebody while you're wearing the mullet. So
that's
like
sick.
have the cross guard stance and run up them and kick them. So that was And then it ended up having that while Sears tragically dying. Oops. Yeah, there's like another fun little one of like, throw on a poncho. It's like, it's been a long time since I felt like this, or I don't remember.
Yeah,
It's some kind of Star Warsy reference. Yeah. Definitely some fun vibes there. And I, for the end of the game, I was just rocking like a bright pink poncho. It's like, yeah, and it fit in very well with
Tanalorr, yeah.
Tanalorr, yeah. With its like aesthetic and stuff.
I think one of my favorite things about the last game in Jedi Fallen Order was I loved the like orange like man with no name poncho that you get like for a few dollars more style poncho you can find. I rocked that for most of that game, and I was like, I kind of want to do that again, but I really want to explore other non-poncho looks. Also, shout out to Grease making fun of the poncho. Grease and Marin making fun of the ponchos. Be like, yeah, he thinks poncho's a good fashion accessory. Oh, did you ever smell those? It's like you never washed them.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, yeah. I loved a lot of their ship banter and stuff like that.
I will say, one of my favorite things you called out to while you were playing. You asked, is that really a Scuba Steve reference in 2023?
Yeah. The Scuba Stev character.
I like Scuba Stev though.
Yeah, he was fun.
Cool.
I found all the fish, got his whole story, his whole backstory. It was always like a good time to go check Twitter or whatever, because I know he's going to be talking for a good few minutes. Yeah, it was fun finding him pop up everywhere.
Yep, there's that. Z was great. I enjoyed all of the side characters. The side characters that they really embellished and showed like, hey, you're on the outskirts, you're in the wild, like you are on the edges of space here. It's you're gonna have wild characters that are all over the place. Shout out though to like these two grumpy people you meet that later you find like the
Force Echo thing.
The Force Echo.
I found that first, and then I met them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No, because it turns out like they're in a relationship.
Yeah, I like you're the only one here. You're the one here I hate least. You're the one here I hate least. All right. Well, yeah. Well, this is a date. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. I was like, aw.
It's like that's cute. Also, he's a big slug hilly.
Yeah. That was so. Like when I saw them, I was like, oh, okay, good for you guys. Because like the only other time I've seen that alien is he's on the ship in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Klaus, I believe is the character's name. I hate that I know that. I know too many Star Wars things that I shouldn't know, that a normal person should not know. But yeah, I still don't understand why the internet went nuts about Turgle. Like he's fine, but not like internet meme of the week fine. At least not for me. I don't know.
People like them. Turgle's fun.
What'd you think of Ravis?
I like Ravis a lot.
Yeah, he was like of the baddies. Like I liked him way more than Dagan. Dagan just felt like, all right, you're a Jedi gone bad.
Well, he's a Jedi gone mad. More than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh hey, keeping somebody in a Bacta tank for like a couple hundred years, not a good idea.
Yeah.
But no, Ravis especially I loved because one, he's the I'm trying to remember what the other named alien from his species is. From the Clone Wars cartoon and the Greater Clone Wars.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to pull that for you.
He is.
I only know Klaus from Rise of Skywalker.
There you go. Yeah, that's the wild thing. You know Klaus from Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, because I was also able to unlock him in Lego Skywalker Saga last year and stuff like that. I know that. Like a lot of the Clone Wars characters did not make the Lego Skywalker Saga cut.
I'm pulling up his race real quick here. The Gendai. So there's only been 2 named Gendai before, and they are Ravis, of course, and then there is let's see here.
Super compelling stuff here, Cam. You looking this up? Yeah, I liked Ravis. I mean, I alluded to it in the spoiler-free stuff, and we've touched on it a little bit here and there. Like, I loved that so much of this is High Republic influenced.
It's Dirge.
That was a cool discovery of oh yeah, Z being like a droid from the High Republic, and Dagan and the woman that you're kind of following, whose name I've already forgotten. Yeah, I love that there was so much of a like High Republic influence
Yes.
on this, since this is the first time really in the medium, I think, where we've really gotten High Republic stuff apart from like, the books and stuff.
Yeah, this is the first time that High Republic's been introduced into anything outside of literature.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. I think the High Republic's such an interesting look at one. The creative team they pulled together to create the High Republic is without a doubt the most diverse creative team that they've ever come up with.
Yeah.
That's ever happened at LucasArts and sorry, not LucasArts, but the Star Wars studio with Disney. The High Republic is easily the most diverse creative place, all different perspectives, and it really shows because the quality of stuff that's come out of High Republic stuff is very, very high. I've not gotten a lot into it, but from what I have heard from other people who I trust, who are big, long time Star Wars fans who have really enjoyed the expanded universe like I have. Now the Legends area of the lore is extremely good. So I'm very. At some point, I'll come around to reading them, but I love the idea of like a very classic take on kind of like what the Jedi, quote unquote, are supposed to be. And I love that for Cal, it's a reflection when he looks at it and he goes, oh, they weren't that different from the Jedi Order that fell. They were different, like there was significant differences in the Republic. But the Jedi, so the Republic changed and the Jedi didn't change with the Republic. And I love his confrontation that he has with himself when he realizes, like, what does it mean to be a Jedi now? Because he thought during the 5 years, he thought being a crusader against the Empire, like he was winning this war. He had his own crew. He gets it, like he looks at the map and he sees they've not made a dent. They haven't made a scrap of difference. And that's one that's so demoralizing, that puts him in such a rough place, and he loses his crew, everything that happens. And he kind of has to like reevaluate. And it is really, what I love about it is I do feel like this game is narratively a chance for Cal to, as an adult, one, come to terms with the fact that he was a child soldier, that he was a child thrown into a war, and that the Jedi as an organization didn't get it right, and him kind of like making the decision that he is going to embrace his relationship with Marin. He is going to he looks and sees it's not attachment that's the problem, it's the fear of losing attachment. He really comes full circle on realizing a lot of things. And one of my favorite moments is when he gets his parting message from Seer to guide Kata. Kata is clearly force sensitive. She is able to.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up.
There's a few key things. There's one of the things about it is also like.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
she got a Jedi dad,
but also she has some she has a bit more keen insight than somebody her age you might consider having. You could put it off by saying, oh well, she's like really empathetic to like can read the atmosphere of the room, like she can read the room basically. You can make that argument, but I think that it is more likely that she is force sensitive, because Seer's parting words to Cal is to guide her, and it is to basically carry on not the teachings of the Jedi Order, but as this becomes a safety place for the hidden path, there's going to be more children who have experienced loss. You're going to have more survivors. And Kata's just the first. And so it'll be up to Marin and Cal to kind of guide these survivors. And so I like the idea that he has kind of... The first game, I realize now, I'm like, you really do fight like a Padawan who's fighting the way that he thinks a Jedi should fight. And in this game, you are a fully fledged Jedi Knight. Like, doing what you're doing. Like, he is 100% a Jedi. But it's like, but then ask the question, what is a Jedi in, like, they, like, other people ask, they're like, you have a lightsaber, so you're a Jedi, but like, what does that even mean now?
Yeah. And I like that moment with Z early on of like I know without a doubt you are a Jedi because of how you're helping me, how you're helping these people. I was like, yeah, that's right. I am a Jedi. Yeah. Like all those other people before me.
Yep. But I loved about it though is like, but in Cal's lifetime, has that been really what it means to be a Jedi?
I mean, I think like I think helping, especially like
Oh, sorry.
in the Clone Wars, we
If
see
you,
plenty of stuff of helping. Yes,
yeah,
like the majority of Cal's formative years were the Clone Wars, but yeah, I think
I think
I
he
think
definitely learned those
prior
lessons
to
for sure.
that,
Yeah.
it was still like taught among the younglings
Oh
and
yeah,
whatnot.
for
But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. But it's imagine you go from like yeah, it's a rough time. He was an 11-year-old kid. He gets like it was he was very traumatic, and I think it plays well into it where it's like yeah, he's come to terms with like he wasn't responsible for his master's death, but he has been responsible for carrying on his master's last, which was we're the last line of defense. Trust only in the Force, and it's like your commanding officer says you got like you're the last line of defense. You got to keep fighting, and he's been doing that for 5 years. He's been doing that, and it's wary. He's war weary, and he's disillusioned because it's like what has Saw been doing? What have any of us been doing if we haven't made a dent in this thing?
mm-hmm.
And it really comes full circle with like, and it's what we also saw with Obi-Wan and everything else, and what we saw with like what you see in the Mandalorian season 3, as that's kind of like coming its own full circle, where it's like, yeah, no, it's really easy for fascism and this imperialist attitude and mentality to take hold again. It's hard to escape that because the empire worked for the reason it worked, but it also falls apart for the reasons it's supposed to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. It's in Andor. You have what's his name's thesis that he writes, where he says like it's natural, like it tries to trap freedom, it tries to contain freedom, and it can't because freedom can't contain it.
Yeah.
It speaks to that in a whole other way. It's like where does Cal end up in this galaxy? And at the very end, he finds his place. His place is with Marin. It's the Mantis. It's Kata, Grease, the people that he has left, and trying to do what good he can. And I'm interested to see where does his story now go from here.
Yeah, that's what I'm also very curious about. Obviously, this one took a 5-year jump in time, so like I'm very and there were definitely a lot of moments near the end where I was like, oh, this definitely feels like a second chapter of a trilogy that they're probably doing.
Yeah.
So where is their finale going to be? Are we going to get another time jump and Marin and Cal have been raising Kata and in secret do they stay on Tandalore or and like I think there was also that element of like, oh, this like the idea of this planet like gives them an interesting storytelling option of like, all right, they're gone for the Battle of Yavin and the fall of the Empire, and could return, afterwards or something like that. So like, yeah, now it's like, oh, that's interesting if, we get another time jump and the next game takes place afterwards and Cal has been alive the whole time and just wasn't in the galaxy for that fight or something. Or if they go more like Rebels route and do something there.
Put him on a boat. I think one of the things I think is very interesting about it is it could be that Tandalore is where the hidden path ends. The point is to keep you moving place to place, as scattered as amongst the stars as you can, and then you all end up on what's the planet that Grease's canteen is on and everything?
Kobo.
Kobo. You end up like Kobo, it's your last stop, and then that's your straight shot to Tandalore. And is that the whole thing? Is that the end point of Cal's story? Is my like, could I have been out there fighting these fights and these battles? Yes. Could I have been getting glory and fighting Vader and being like all of that? Sure. Or was my place being here on Tandalore, protecting the end point of the hidden path, raising these survivors and helping people recover from the trauma of their past? Like, am I supposed to be out there and be a war hero and a soldier, or is my purpose to be a counselor and a healer and somebody who helps people the way I was helped? Because Seer's great, like the great thing Seer did for Cal isn't she led him on this journey, it's that she helped him heal. And she supported him. And like she took on that role. It was it, and it's like, yeah, and like, where do they go from here? Like, does Cal, like, yeah, does Cal sometimes help out on some clandestine stuff? Does he, like, but at the end of the day, can you risk hurting the hidden path? And is it better to be a hero and die in a blaze of glory, or is it better to help others and be take a lesser role? Is the point of end point of Cal's story taking a lesser role but making greater impact in the survivors of the post imperial galaxy? Does Tantalor open up and all of a sudden all these people leave the hidden path? And like, let's ask this question: does it take place in the era of the New Republic, where the Empire's been defeated? Cal has helped the hidden path like end itself. We no longer need the hidden path. The force sensitive people are now free to live their lives in the galaxy. What does that look like? Like, you could do that and be like, okay, well, this is now Cal's having to deal with like first order people, and maybe you don't even play as Cal. Maybe you play as Kata. Maybe you play as somebody else. Like, there's a lot of avenues you could go down here for the next like chapter in this story, and I'm really curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, me too. Any final thoughts before we wrap up for the episode there, Cam?
Yeah, keep it greasy, baby.
Keep it greasy indeed. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of That Nerdy Site Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to discuss Tears of the Kingdom and Jedi Survivor. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but go check out my Jafo Jedi Fallen Order playthrough. It's up every Wednesday at youtube.com/thatnerdysite.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. You can go find my first few hours of Tears of the Kingdom also on youtube.com/thatnerdysite. Like I said, I'll probably sit down and record another Let's Play or 2 tomorrow. That'll probably go up this week, since now I do need to start doing stuff on Thursdays again, since my Breath of the Wild replay is all done. And at some point, either we need to sit down and record another Elden Ring Let's Play for Tuesday, or I'm going to just throw a placeholder Tears of the Kingdom episode in there. So you'll find something on Tuesday and Thursday this week on youtube.com/thatnerdysite as well.
We have not been excited to go back to Elden Ring.
Yeah, they might both be Tears of the King. We might take a little bit more of an extended break on Elden Ring while we both just get engrossed with Tears of the Kingdom and the weird things we can do there. So stay tuned for all of that. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you like more Star Wars stuff, that D Plus show, we've been talking about Star Wars Visions Volume 2. We did that the last couple of weeks on that D Plus show, and this week we will be finishing up with the last few episodes of this Star Wars Visions season. So we got plenty of Star Wars stuff for you here on the channel. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. As always, thank you for listening. Stay nerdy, be good to each other, and may the Force be with you.
And also with you.